Hello my fellow fans, how's it going? So, the next installment of the DC movie universe is coming this month, Aquaman, and I'm pretty excited about it. But, I mean, especially as of late, Aquaman seems to be kind of the butt end of jokes, you know? People joke about his limited ability. He kind of has to be connected to water to work really well. People talk about how his main superpower is to talk to fish and how when you say it like that it sounds super lame. Yet Aquaman has always had a pretty strong fan base when it comes to the creators of comic books, particularly at DC. And I think there's a lot of cool things that we can find in Aquaman stories. So where's a good place to start? So Justice League Volume 3, Throne of Atlantis, has a really fun Aquaman story in it, and I think it's a good place to start talking about the character, so let's go ahead and get started. The story starts on an American battleship conducting a routine missile test. Suddenly, the missiles start firing on their own right, and they fall right into the ocean floor into the city of Atlantis. Shortly after, we find Batman taking care of business with some hostages, and things are looking a bit hairy until Aquaman shows up and capsizes the boat that the bad guys were on, and they save the hostages. Batman's all like, "Hey, thanks bud, I don't need any help, 'cause I'm Batman." To which Aquaman says, "Fine, but I need your help. All the fish are leaving the coast and for some reason I can't stop them," which means that something really big is happening. And he mentions that the last time this happened, there were these monsters from the depths of the ocean that were threatening everything, and just kind of does a little bit of a flashback there. And he mentions that if those monsters have come back, then this is no longer just a single hero level problem, this is a Justice League problem. Right as soon as Aquaman is done, a giant colossal tidal wave comes crashing down on Metropolis. And it's carrying this aircraft carrier, and it's speeding down towards downtown Metropolis. It's going to destroy everything, going to kill a lot of people. Thankfully though, Metropolis has an in-resident superhero, and he brought Wonder Woman with him. So Superman and Wonder Woman are able to catch the aircraft carrier and stop it from crashing into Metropolis. But they look down at the giant tidal wave that's coming in, and it's looking pretty bleak. There's no way they can save everyone. That's when this old man shows up and starts pulling people out of the water. He grabs Lois and saves Lois and puts her on a rooftop and then passes out from exhaustion. Meanwhile, a similar wave is chasing Gotham. This scares Aquaman as it looks eerily similar to the Atlantean war plans that he drew up in case he ever had to go to war with the surface. The Atlanteans are attacking, and the person leading the attack is Aquaman's brother Orm. Back in Metropolis, the old man finally wakes up and mentions that he has vital information he needs to pass on to Aquaman. So Superman, Wonder Woman, they take the man up to the watchtower. Aquaman and Batman and Cyborg meet up with them later, and the man explains what has happened. He explains that this missile test hit Atlantis and it made Orm super angry and all this stuff. He acknowledges it must have been an accident, but things are looking pretty bleak. It is also here that it is suggested that the missile test must have been sabotaged to specifically start a war with the surface world. The Justice League pretty much believes that they need to arrest Orm and have him answer for his crimes against the surface world, but Aquaman protests and says, "Look, just give me a chance to talk with him and see if I can sort all of this out before we have to arrest him." Now the League is like, "Okay, we'll give you one shot, but we'll be standing back in case you need backup." Aquaman meets up with King Orm and tries to talk him out of the attack, only to make things worse. Orm has confusions about who's actually in charge of the surface world, and it just looks like every time Aquaman's saying something, King Orm just wants to attack the surface world more. So Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman show up, and they're here to provide backup. They're here to help Aquaman take down Orm, right here, right now. Now, Aquaman does something interesting. He doesn't side with his League companions. He turns against them and he starts fighting them. in an effort to try and get Orm to see that Aquaman is still loyal to Atlantis. Now, this attack against the League by Aquaman prompts King Orm to call his Atlantean foot army up onto the shore to start attacking in the second phase of the Atlantean war plans. Now, because everything is in disarray, Orm and his army take down the 4 Justice Leaguers and they banish them to the depths of the ocean. Meanwhile, Cyborg has been going around Earth gathering up the people that the Atlantean war plans specifically say are going to be a threat to the Atlantis invasion. When Cyborg gets back to the Watchtower, Vulko, the old man from earlier, tells Cyborg the plight they're in, that the League has been defeated, that the Atlanteans are coming up with foot soldiers and attacking the surface world directly, and this prompts Cyborg to go ahead with an experimental surgery to give him full underwater capabilities to rescue the League and save the world. While he's out and undergoing surgery, Cyborg starts a program to analyze the data from the missile test to find out who was sabotaging it, and then he also sends out an alert to all of the reserve Justice League members to hopefully get some support to help fight off the Atlanteans until the rest of the Justice League, the main Justice League, can come in and help solve the problem, save the day. Cyborg, Mera, and Aquaman are able to save Wonder Woman, Batman, and Superman, and we learned that Vulko was the one who launched the attack so the war can start, and he can steal a trident that controls the monsters of the trench, those monsters that Aquaman brought up at the beginning. And while the trench is fighting the Atlanteans, who are fighting the League, who are fighting the trench, who are also fighting the Atlanteans, this 3-way war is happening. Aquaman is fighting King Orm. Eventually, Orm has to yield the crown and gives the kingship back to Aquaman. Aquaman stands up and says, "I am your king now. We have to stop fighting the surface world. We have to stop fighting the League. We gotta take care of this trench problem, get them back into the water and or defeat them, whatever. We just gotta solve this problem. This is the bigger problem." When the fight is all over, Vulko is brought to Aquaman, and Vulko confesses that he did what he did. He sabotaged the missiles, he started the fight, he summoned the trench so that Aquaman would have to take the throne again. He believes that Atlantis will only have a golden age if Aquaman is the one who is leading them. Unfortunately, Vulko's plan ultimately worked. Aquaman has to go back to Atlantis as king, Mera has to stay on the surface world as its ambassador, and the Justice League suffers another blow to their reputation that has been steadily declining ever since they started several issues ago. But one of the good things, we now have a league that is more open in its membership and more open to accepting outside help. Now, this story works really well as a primer for the Aquaman character. We learn a lot about his opinions and his philosophies. We see moments where he disagrees with Batman over how to run the Justice League. We see moments where he struggles between whether he's loyal to Atlantis or loyal to the surface world. We see kind of the same issues and discussions that we saw in the Justice League movie, though they were probably better executed in this book. The story is one of the more solid that the Justice League has had in recent memory. I mean, let's see, it was written by Geoff Johns, and Geoff Johns writes a really good comic. And while the art is maybe a bit plain, it fits the story well, and some of the underwater effects are really gorgeous. So, I mean, I like the story, and you can collect it in individual issues. Right here, I will list them out. And if you get the actual graphic novel collected edition, then you also get a couple issues at the beginning that are a Wonder Woman-centric story, which also works as a pretty good primer for that character. And, of course, if you liked Justice League Throne of Atlantis, you may also like these stories. Let's see. We have Justice League Volume 1. Aquaman does some really cool stuff in that, and it also kind of gives you an origin story about how he ended up on the surface. Aquaman Volume 1 deals primarily with the monsters of the trench. And if you're interested in Aquaman the character, Geoff Johns loves Super Friends. You might be able to find some gems in Super Friends if you're open to it. So, there you go. Justice League Volume 3 Throne of Atlantis. So, are you excited about the new movie coming out? And what are some Aquaman stories that you like? Also, what are Swedish fish supposed to taste like? Go ahead and give me your thoughts down in the comments below. And as always, until next time, thank you for joining me. Have a great day. And remember to always be your best self.